And I, all of a sudden, Iboga. And so in order for me to bring it to the States, the first step would be Bwiti initiation. This is the best medicine that we need to work with. Run to it. If you're called to it, run to it. And yeah, there's terror. There's terror in that. We're Americans. We don't do this all the time. Like, we need to break. I really wanted my brother around and wanted him to live. And so this fierceness had like instantly created this whole energy around me. Talking about how to set up a Bwiti church here in Colorado.
Now is the time.
I know.
Let's
I'd
do
like
that.
to be a lobbyist in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean that.
Today we have an incredibly special guest, a very dear friend, someone who, honestly, I've come to love over these past several months as a sister. Someone who really, I believe, is going to make incredible waves as we move forward in the psychedelic healing space. In fact, she has just returned last week from Gabon, Africa, after being initiated into the Bwiti way in the sacred medicine of Iboga. So I would like to welcome the former president of Everland here in Colorado, but now just with the title of a full spectrum alchemist, Blair Bliss.
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to share my experience, and the feeling is mutual, definitely. And I appreciate this and excited to get the word out about this powerful medicine. So thank you.
And we are so excited to have you here and learn more about Iboga.
Yes, and I have lots to learn too. Disclaimer, I'm not an expert.
Well, you're more of an expert than we are. I know very little about this medicine. And so for our listeners in Colorado and across the country who may not be familiar, could you give us a basic overview of Iboga and how that's different from Ibogaine?
Sure. So if you, just very basic, Iboga is the plant. Iboga is a shrub found in Africa, Central West Africa, and Ibogaine is the pharmaceutical version of it. So it's broken down.
Oh, that was a great explanation. I wasn't aware of that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, I know we've discussed your first experience with this medicine. Mm-hmm. So if you don't mind, let's go back to that first time. What really brought you to the medicine, and what was that first experience like?
Yeah, so I'll go way back to 2010. I sat with ayahuasca in Peru, and I got a very clear message that I was to work with Iboga. You are to work with Iboga. Okay, great. So 2021, I have my brother. He told me I could share a story. My brother was dealing with a crack addiction, and I, all of a sudden, Iboga addiction. Yes. This is the best medicine that we need to work with. So I found a center in Costa Rica called Iboga Wellness Center, and called them up, got my brother and I in, and I said, okay, how do I need to prepare my brother for us to go to Costa Rica and for this experience? And he needed to be clean for 30 days. So I went through the whole process of, I slept outside of his bedroom. I made sure that there was no crack interaction and myself as well, and not from crack, but no substance, just it's a similar dieta to ayahuasca in terms of substance, absence from substance, but not so much the, abstaining from pork, etc. Anyway, I digress. But so went to Costa Rica with my brother with the primary intention of healing his addiction with crack. I mean, I really wanted my brother around and wanted him to live. And so we went down there, and of course I have my own journey with Iboga, but as I explained to you, that my first initial experience lasted about close to 3 days, but I knew it was my medicine. Like, I know we all experience different various psychedelics, and we all have, not all of us, but some of us have an aha moment of this is my medicine, be it ayahuasca, mushrooms, wachuma, but Iboga is my medicine. It just feels, I feel at home with it. It's a very direct truth, a direct knowing that really speaks to me. And Africa has always spoken to me as well, so the fact that it comes from Africa feels very home to me.
So during that first experience, how do you actually consume the medicine?
So Levi, that owns the Iboga Wellness Center in Costa Rica, he was initiated into the Bwiti Tribe through in Africa. So he has brought some of those traditions to Costa Rica, i.e., we're sitting around a fire, and the ceremony begins, and everything's around fire with Iboga. And, there's a torch, and there's a very ceremonial way of setting intention. And then it's served as a bark. It's a literal, like, ground up bark. When I did it, you just swallow the bark, which is very bitter, and you have a little bit of water. But the experience is, I love bitter, but it's not. So now they use it with honey, which actually they say helps to deliver the medicine to your body much quicker. So, and also with capsules. So it's a significant amount. I mean, at least 50 grams, 50 to 100 grams is a flood dose.
Oh, wow.
And then, yeah.
Wow. So how long does that last? You said your experience lasted
My
for 3 days?
whole experience lasted about 3 days, but
Wow.
the journey, the most powerful part is probably about 12 hours.
Wow. Is that average?
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then you're taken back to your room, and you're in your room and you're resting, and so I was up for 3 days, 2 nights, yeah.
That's intense.
It's intense.
So you consumed it through a drink, or?
Yeah, so you swallow the bark, and then to get more in you, there are capsules, so you take a lot of capsules.
So it's kind of like a booster dose.
Yeah, and then it settles into your stomach. You haven't eaten all day, and so settles into your stomach, and it's it takes about 30 to 45 minutes, and you start feeling like a wave. Things start, your visuals start to change, and at that point, at the Iboga Wellness Center, they walk you to your mattress, and you lie down on your mattress, and a whole series of events occur after that.
Do you remember what was going through your mind those first 30 minutes after you had consumed, before you start to feel the effects?
Oh yeah, I was terrified. I was surrendered to the terror, but I was you hear so much about Iboga being the grandfather, the most powerful psychedelic. There's a lot of, I was terrified. Like, I knew I wasn't going to die. I didn't feel that kind of terror. It's just like, what is going to be revealed to me? And I've sat with many different psychedelics, and this one, I was terrified, for sure.
So take us through that first experience briefly of what those next 3 days looked like.
So once you're lying down on the mat, Iboga is very embodying. So you're very present in your body, and for me, I was, and so I literally could see my nervous system being rewired, my all of my vascular system being cleared, cleaned. Like, you can see it through your body. And at the whole time you're listening to the mungungo, which is the instrument that they play. It looks like a bow and arrow, and they hold it and they move their mouth, and to some it's really irritating, but it's really meditative for me now. But you're listening to the music for this whole entire time, which is invoking, a rhythm within your body that's moving things and reordering things, and the visual experiences that are occurring is picture like a Netflix video, like a Netflix, where literally all your memories are coming before you and then disappearing. And they say that that's releasing a lot of your stored information that is perhaps why you're holding on to certain traumas or it's like real time release of these. And so the terror is you think that these things are going to be all consuming, and it's not. It's literally, it showed me some pretty powerful events that happened in my life, but immediately disappearing, and then actually feeling on a physical level, cellular level, them leave my body, right? Because we know the body keeps score. Yeah. It holds on to everything. That's why, addiction is what addiction is to, anyway. So the process of that was incredible.
Wow. That sounds amazing. And when you were talking about the music and just painting that picture, I was thinking about how I've heard that set and setting is really vital when working with Iboga. Could you maybe comment on why that is?
Well, I think just from a pure nervous system, like your heart rate is slowed down, your senses, like we had eye masks on, but I could literally see the entire room. I could see where everybody was sitting. I mean, with my eyes closed, eye mask on. So I could hear everything from every corner of the room. I could hear voices, and not hallucinations. It was some Iboga likes to play tricks on you, so it'll throw in some funny images or have some silly sounds, or, it's a trickster medicine as well to try and fuck with your brain. Just becoming super aware of how much our senses are dumbed down and are dulled, right, in this environment. And then when you're in Iboga and you're in such a calm environment that Iboga Wellness Center is set aside, very calm, serene, peaceful, allows those senses to feel safe and opening up, and what they're revealed is pretty incredible.
Wow. That's almost like having a superpower.
Oh, it's total. And we all have it. Every single one of us. But it's a matter of, and that's what Iboga, invites us to do, is really seeing our superpower.
Wow.
What did you and your brother really take away from that first experience? How did it change you both? If you can speak for your brothers.
Sure. I can. I got his, but the powerful thing about this medicine and why it works so well with addiction is it brings you back to your pre-addictive state. So for me, I call it home, like my home, my soul, my home, and for my brother too. And so anytime we get in our, caught up in our story or caught up in the frenzies of life, I always have that reference point, which is to me so beautiful, right? You always have the home to refer to. So I think really just solidifying that. I think just the pure healing of the medicine in terms of my nervous system and my vasculars, every system in my body was healed. And disease can exist in an alkaline environment, and it's the most alkaline medicine that I know of. And so, which is pretty amazing too. So just purely like my vessel is healed, right? And so for my brother too. And so you don't even want to put tobacco in it or alcohol or anything. It's not, I don't crave it. I don't want it. I don't need it. I just feel really good, really solid in myself, which is, yeah. And for my brother too, he's now getting married next year, and he has a fiance, and he's got a full-time job, and he's thriving, and he's kicking ass and taking names. It takes a community, and it takes, his own efforts, but Iboga really gave him that pad to jump from, if that makes sense.
Wow, that's an incredible transformation.
Incredible. And he's not alone in his story. I mean, I know many addicts that have, yeah.
Yeah, no, I've heard, and it's such a powerful opportunity. How did you get the opportunity to be initiated by the Bwiti Tribe?
So I've always wanted to go to Africa, probably since I came out of my mother's womb. I've just been Africa bound, and now I know why. It's my soul's calling to be initiated into this medicine. So I was at my house, and my friend Matt called me. Matt has an Ibogaine wellness center in Costa Rica, and he called me and he said, so somebody canceled to go to Africa, And do you want to go? Because I talked to Levi, the head, and said, Levi told me that somebody canceled. Matt immediately was like, Blair. And so he called me, and I'm like, I need 24 hours. And it was like 3 weeks from then. And so that's how it happened. I mean, it was literally, and then all the doors opened. My dear friend Alex sponsored my trip, and lots of beautiful things that just opened all the doors to get there. And then I was to fly separate. Like I was to fly from Denver to Paris, but my flight got canceled. So then I ended up taking a flight to New York and then being on the flight with all the people that we were going. So there were 7 others, and we all met up in New York. And then, so it was meant to be.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That sounds like serendipity.
Yeah. And I like full speed ahead. That's what type of person I am. And like, I'm going to go get initiated into the Bwiti tradition. Yes.
Yes.
Like through Iboga. Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
We're doing that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that story. That's incredible.
Yeah.
It was meant to be.
Yeah, it is. Definitely.
All right, so you fly out of New York.
Yep.
Directly into Gabon?
No, directly into Paris. So we went to Paris.
Okay, you went to Paris.
We were there short time, and then there direct to Libreville, Gabon.
And then what happens?
Then we get to Gabon, and we get all of our stuff. So this funny story. So before we went, I tell everybody that I'm fluent in French because 20 years ago I was fluent in French. So of course I'm still fluent in French. So the group thinks that I'm going to be the translator, which, okay. I mean, I didn't know this, but great. Everybody thinks this. So anyway, we get to Gabon, and they're asking it to the airport, and they're asking some questions, and the head of our group is like, well, tell him this. And I'm like literally French can't come out of me. And I'm like, okay, maybe not so fluent in French right now. It came back quickly, but anyway, it was a good ego check on being really. Anyway, so we get to the airport. They ask me questions. Why are you here? Travel. But they gave us a little bit of a hard time. But anyway, we got through, and our Demessa is the shaman, picks us up at the airport. And that was a whole experience going from the airport. We're in this raggedy, picture like the Scooby-Doo Volkswagen van, but like totally stripped, and like all out, the doors almost falling off. And there's, probably 12 of us in this van driving 45 minutes to the village that we're going to stay in. And Demessa's house is a little 3-bedroom house, and there's 2 bedrooms with bunk beds, so 8 beds for the 8 of us to stay in. We arrived there. They have a whole feast prepared for us, which was really beautiful. And we got to meet everybody. And it was this whole excitement. I think we're the first Westerners that he's worked with. So that was beautiful. And all, he had 7 children living in this house and all sleeping on the floor.
Well, so I just want to clarify and repeat that. You are part of the first group of Westerners that
this particular shaman, this particular village has worked with. We are the first Westerners they've worked with.
Oh, congratulations on that. So then continue through the rest of the few days.
So we all get a good night's sleep, wake up, and that day we were to drink a medicine. The name is slipping my mind, but we're to drink a medicine that makes us purge. So they're preparing the medicine. It's from a type of bark in this really gorgeous tree that's right in the jungle by them. And it's 9 a.m. We get all our stuff, and we walk to this location where we're gonna purge. And picture like a clearing in a forest with a fallen tree. And so we're all sitting, 8 of us, sitting on this fallen tree, and they start taking a machete and digging, 2-foot holes right, between our feet. And then they use palm fronds to cover the holes. And then they start serving us the purging medicine. And I'm witnessing some people just sip it and then having a really difficult time, like sip it and puke, sip it and puke. So I'm like, I'm just going to chug it, and then, be done with it, that's what I did. But anyway, we puked in the hole, and then they covered the hole with the palm fronds and then with the dirt. So now we're purified, our stomachs, everything's ready to fully taken the medicine. And then they give us a one-person sweat. So they dig a hole, put all these beautiful medicines and herbs in it, and start it on fire. And then they cover us in blankets with just our heads out, and then smoke us out, basically, to get rid of any kind of evil energy that maybe we've latched onto us, or just to purify through smoke and fire and to purify the vessel. That was the end of that day. And then, of course, we ate later, and I wasn't really fond of the food. It was very different for me, and but I tried. I mean, there was chicken, but there was some fish dishes, and I have a very, curious palate. But no. I lived off of protein bars and beef jerky, and yeah. But that's okay.
And so the next day was the ceremony?
So the next day, a couple things. We're told that the ceremony is only 24 hours. For months for most of the people, and then a couple weeks I've been preparing, okay, I'm going to be in a ceremony for 24 hours. And before we go to the ceremony, we're to go to a river. Well, the river was dried out, so they had to bring in buckets of water. And this is where we take off our clothes for today. We put on a whole new outfit, like our ceremony outfit. It's like a sarong wrap for the women, and a crown, and then a red feather. And then the guys had red, almost like short wrap things, and bare tops. And then we covered our bodies in this red medicinal plant-like. And then in the buckets, it was full of medicines, and we're to speak into the bucket our prayers of things that we want to call in, and prayers of things that we want to let go. Oh, and before all of this prayer work on the water, we're to announce the name of our family, of our ancestors, the names of our ancestors, which I think is really powerful. It's just, yes, I'm stepping into this initiation, and I'm honoring what's come before me, regardless of all the traumas and et cetera that have ensued. So anyway, then cleansed our bodies, and then we got the first dose of Iboga, which we didn't know that we were going into ceremony that night, but we're like, okay, yes, we're doing this. So get in the van, and the Iboga starts kicking in while we're driving in this van that I described earlier. And so we're in the van
while the psychedelic medicine starts to take effect.
And we're literally in a city with like cars and like honking and pollution. And here we are all dressed in this Bwiti garb, like Bwiti. And people are driving by and looking at us like and they know Bwiti, but it was a hard register.
The pigmentation of your skin was a little lighter than what they traditionally see in the traditional garb.
Yes. So that was kind of fun, though, to be a spectacle, and I enjoyed it. I mean, it's kind of interesting because I'm always looking, so it was nice to be looked at and just feel that, especially on the medicine. And then we have a guy who's, purging, and we have, all the things happening when the medicine starts to come on.
Still in the van.
And then we get to the temple, and we get out, and it begins, and the fire is set, and people from the village come, and they sit, and they witness this whole entire process throughout the time. And the men and the women are separated, and we do a very traditional dance. And meanwhile, we've never done this before. They've been doing this since they were infants. And so, you're following along, and they're pushing you along, and they're showing you what to do, and, which was incredible in its own. I mean, that was an initiation in its own. And then we get to our seats, and we sit down, and then we're taken through various, where we show the elders that we are ready to be initiated. So there's various dances and various ways of presenting and various ways of that's a part of that initiation, like introducing ourselves, which was pretty powerful. And then take more medicine, and they put mirrors in front of all of us. And this is a part of the Iboga initiation, is the use of a mirror. And we're asked to just speak whatever visions are coming, again, like what I spoke about, my original experience of just release, real time, right? Whatever comes to our mind. That was pretty fascinating to hear everybody's experience in that, because we went around and as a group and talked about it, and it was, presented in front of the tribe, and music was playing, and it's pretty incredible. Think about it. Like thousands of years, these traditions have been passed down. I'm not sure if it's always been a mirror, because I don't know how long mirrors have been around. The whole production of this, and I come from a theater background, was exceptional. It was so well done, so to perfection, and real time. They're, stopping and saying, no, that's not the right way to do it. Rewind, start over. It was cool. It was cool, to be a part of their process as well.
So how long are you actually looking in the mirror at yourself during that experience?
I have no idea. It got to be about, when we were in there, about 24 hours. And we told Demessa, we're Americans. We don't do this all the time. We need to break. So he's like, okay, 12 more hours. So we were 36 hours. And then they were like, okay, they found a stopping point. And then a couple days later, we went in and finished the 48. So we did 12 more. But it was interesting because, as Americans, some of us experienced some anger because you didn't prepare us, right? If I would have been better prepared, but he knew exactly what he was doing and not preparing us. And he knew that was going to be a part of our growth, right? African time is a different time. There's no conception of time. Time, the ceremony ends when the ceremony ends. So I got real accustomed to, a lot of my timing things that I have are just feel way more relaxed, because it was really shocked out of me, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, that sounds like a mind-blowing, life-altering experience.
Yeah, Navy SEALs training.
Yeah.
For the mind, body, spirit, for sure.
And so did you have any idea or preparation at all, or were you just going in blind? I feel like
totally
that would drive
blind. Wow. I didn't even watch. I started to watch some initiation things because I was just curious. I'm like, no, that'll just set me up for... Because you hear horror stories.
Yeah.
I'm not a part of a horror story. Thank you.
Expectation often sets your reality.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you were on the medicine, what are the side effects of that? How was, you mentioned some visuals. How was your sense of time? Were there any negative side effects? What did that feel like? So
Iboga is it's the stamina. It's medicine for stamina. They would use it to go hunting for hours and hours and hours and hours. It's a energy, long term. You can get through anything with Iboga. It's just a long term, long lasting. In terms of side effects, I didn't have experience of any. Sure, you purge. That's a part of it. If you consider that a side effect. Purging or your heart rate, but you're very present in your body. It puts the mind at rest. There isn't a lot of thinking. You're not contemplating. You contemplate after. I've definitely had contemplation over the past couple of weeks of integration, but not during. It's all about release and, finding the core, but it's more direct. It's a direct route. It's clear and instant and there. It's not a whole lot of monkey brain.
Yeah, no, it sounds incredibly intense. So what was that like after? What changes did you notice after your experience? And what was that integration process? What does that look like?
So I'm still in it. I think I'll be in it for the next few, at least 6 months. Because there's so much, I don't want to say information, but so many patterns that were released that obviously there are parts of me that are like, whoa, no, we want to keep that one, or we want to, like I have a certain fierceness to me that used to run the show. And so now through a process with a woman the only other woman that was with me, Sonia, through one of her processes, and then also just my own work, but that I can really let the defenses down, and I'm safe, I'm home. Like I'm safe, I'm home. Like the defense and the fierceness doesn't need to run the show, which, what a perfect medicine that is so, tribal, and, it's just a perfect medicine to release that. Wow. So that's been a good practice. At the end of the 36 hours, I had taken off my ceremonial dress and I put on some leggings, and they told me, you have to wear your ceremonial dress. You cannot wear your leggings. And I'm like, no, I was like pretty fierce about, no, I'm wearing this. And I went in my room, and oh man, the whole tribe was set off, and they were like yelling outside my room and like, da-da-da-da-da. And so this fierceness had like instantly created this whole energy around me.
Wow.
And so, which brought me really sober to the fact of how energy, ripples out. Here we're a lot more numb, so it's not so instant, but it was instant there. And so I went through a whole process of releasing that and calming that. And then they went, and then I left the room, and then we had a whole kind of healing process around it. But a lot more aware of that energy, that I have an impact. Yeah. And that sounds silly but it's to see the power of it really in the real time was pretty valid.
Yeah. No, I know. I don't think that sounds silly at all. I think what you said about us being numb here is so very true. And I feel like that prevents us from sensing and noticing that energy. That sounds incredible. That sounds
so
like
incredible, because they have a fierceness to them, but it leaves. So it's like, and then because the Bwiti way is truth from your heart right now, like at a rapid speed, and then they don't hold on it leaves, and they are so in tune with each other on an energetic level that if you don't release the truths in real time, then that's when upheavals and no one wants that there. Yeah. So
no, and we tend to hold that trauma in our bodies.
Yes. And that's why they're so beautiful as a people. They're just how they hold themselves and how they, because they're not holding on to a lot of shit and baggage, and that's my interpretation now. I don't know if I'm correct, but that's my understanding.
All right, I have to ask the question that the audience is wondering. Was the healing process, were you in leggings or not at that point?
What?
So the leggings caused, the stir. When you fixed that, were you still in the leggings?
I was still in the leggings.
Okay.
I kept my leggings on.
Okay.
And they were, okay, Blair. I kept the medicine on. I didn't wash it off. I honored that part of it.
Now, we've seen here recently, as we've started to decriminalize and start to look at legalizing certain psychedelics here in Colorado, that some of the indigenous community believe that the commercialization and use of these certain medicines, such as mescaline, might be approaching cultural appropriation in some ways. I was wondering, did you have a chance to talk to the tribe about their perspective of this medicine starting to become more popular in the West?
They just they want the world to experience it. They want everyone to experience it. So I think maintaining the Bwiti way is really important. And one of my goals and intentions is to work with Demessa, the shaman, and talking about how to set up a Bwiti church here in Colorado. I've met with an attorney that I'm meeting with, and I'm starting that process. So next week I'm meeting with the attorney to get that all going. But I am going to be collaborating with him and asking him what needs to be maintained and what can, what doesn't, right? What's important to him and his tribe to maintain in the Bwiti tradition, and what isn't. Because certainly he understands that not everybody's going to go through an initiation. He also understands the power of the medicine. He wants to come to Costa Rica and experience Iboga Wellness Center model. which would be very different, where you take the medicine and you lie on a mat, and 12 hours later you are escorted to your room. And that's very different than how he's experienced the medicine. He's experienced it with 48 hours of, dancing and talking. And part of me is to get initiated into the Bwiti. So my intention to go there, because I was like, why did ayahuasca tell me I need to work with Iboga? Like, why? Okay, my brother and I, we did this, but I know there's a greater reason. And so in order for me to bring it to the States, the first step would be Bwiti initiation, so that I can start that pathway.
Yeah, no, I love that they want to share the medicine. And so in the U.S., we're seeing that the power to treat addiction, what is it traditionally used for in the Bwiti tribe? And when do they start that initiation? At what age?
So Bwiti and Iboga are one. So they start at infant. Like I asked them that, the infant, and I'll show you a picture, but she's anyway, they started at infant.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. And just little bit, but just to get you may call it a dieta, but just to get the system accustomed to it. So it's just a way of life. So they're not always having a psychedelic experience, but the Iboga medicine is always in them.
So it's like a microdose.
Yes.
More like a microdose.
Yes.
Oh, wow. And so how often do they do that?
One of his instructions, Demessa, was for me to consume Iboga on a daily basis. Like, that's just the Bwiti way.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so how do you feel different with that daily? Are you taking it daily now?
I am.
And how does that make you feel different throughout your day?
It's just home for me. I mean, I keep referencing home, but I feel complete. Like, this journey really, I felt like I was always searching for the thing, and it was, of course, it's always here, but so it just maintains that, I don't, like, alcohol is not a thing for me anymore. For those of you who know me, tobacco was like, I love tobacco, and it's just a lovely medicine, and the healing benefits from, the alkaline structure of it are powerful.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard anything so incredibly transformative.
Mm-hmm.
So is there a difference in this particular type of Iboga medicinally compared with other Iboga in different parts of Africa?
Certainly. I asked that question. There's what they consider more plus de force. It's like there's more power in, depending upon the region that it's grown in, depending upon how old it is. The older it is, at least 7 years or older, more powerful. There's a lot of poaching going on because Gabon now protects Iboga. You can't just export it. I think they just had their first, don't quote me on this, but kilo of exported legally Iboga to a wellness center somewhere. I don't know where it was, but it was the first one that the government allowed to leave, and the people that were purchasing it had to go through a whole process of, ensuring that it was sustainably forest and that they were buying it for XYZ reasons. So any Iboga now is out of Cameroon, or it's been what they call poached, like it's underground. And so there's the belief that maybe it's diluted in that process. I don't know, just in how it's processed. Because sometimes you're not getting the bark, you're getting what's below the bark. And the bark is the most powerful part.
Wow. And so are they using it for different intentions in different parts of Africa, or is it pretty much a standard usage?
I think it's standard just medicinally. I think in the Bwiti way, I'm not sure anything outside of the Bwiti way, but it's becoming more and more popular for the Western world to go there and experience this.
So with that popularity, what other steps are they taking to really ensure sustainability for the long run, not only for the native population, but for those who really, can heal from this?
That's the conundrum. That's the question of the time right now. I think there's a lot of powers to be, a lot of NGOs that are really working hard on
Will you define an NGO for our audience?
Yes, non-government organization. So, which is good because you're of the people, for the people, supposedly. But there is a great one. Blessing of the Forest is an organization that is doing really powerful work in ensuring the sustainable forestation of Iboga, Blessing of the Forest. I think they were at the MAPS event. Who's the guy in the 60s that was a heroin addict, went to his heroin dealer. The heroin dealer said, I don't have heroin right now, but I have Ibogaine, and gave it to him. And he became famous.
That is a surprise when you go visit your...
Howard Lotzeff, this guy at 19 was addicted to heroin and searching for his new high. He was given Ibogaine, and he came out of it and stopped immediately, and then got like 6 of his friends to do it. And then it became his life mission until he died, to get Ibogaine to addicts. He has a whole foundation set up about it. It hasn't gotten anywhere yet, but I think it's, I would like to carry that on.
Yeah.
Let's carry that on.
Yeah, let's do that. I mean, with our mental health crisis
Yes.
and addiction crisis,
Yes.
now is the time.
I know.
Let's
like,
do
I'd like
that.
to be a lobbyist in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean that could solve lots of problems.
Totally.
I don't know why we shouldn't do that.
I think they're afraid of the deaths that have happened.
Yeah.
But if you look at the stories behind the deaths that have occurred, it's usually somebody that was in active addiction that wasn't honest about the amount of drugs they had taken. So the dosage they were given was just too much, I guess. I don't know, but anyway. People die all the time from pharmaceuticals.
Oh yeah, you can die from an overdose on Tylenol.
Yeah.
500 people died from an overdose on Tylenol
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah.
And so it's not there. There are precautions. Who should not take Ibogaine, and what are the risks associated with it?
So, of course, disclaimer, I'm not a medical professional, but I do know before I went to the Iboga Wellness Center in Costa Rica, I had to get an EKG. So my mom, she was going to go with me, and she couldn't because her heart rate is way too low. And Iboga takes your heart rate even lower, and so it's not safe. I mean, she could probably take a really low dose, but so any kind of cardiovascular issues, it's just good to check with a doctor and get a full kind of write-up and clearance for it. I think anybody who's in active addiction, like if you have cocaine in your system and you take Iboga, there's a higher risk of death. They just don't go well together. I believe SSRIs and any kind of benzo to be out of your system. Matt Ski, my friend that has the Ibogaine Wellness Center, ibogaine.io in Costa Rica, he has a whole protocol that isn't, a 30-day is actually a 5-day out of your system. And then he's got the whole medical professional and nursing staff and any kind of technology needed that should you go into some type of life-threatening situation, it's right there on site. So, which is pretty powerful for anybody coming out of active heroin or cocaine or, various addictions. But it's really important that if you go to an Iboga or Ibogaine Wellness Center, that you're fully honest about what you're on, because that could make or break you, literally. I can't stress that enough. There is no shame with your facilitator and telling them everything. And even if you've brought, drugs with you, because the drug, Ibogaine might not work, is a fear of yours, like being fully, like disclosing everything so that, medical professionals can be available. Yeah. I mean, it's a long-lasting psychedelic. It's a direct truth. It's most of your answers are given directly through you, whereas ayahuasca is a lot of, my experience with ayahuasca was external entities, deities, visions. Iboga is just like direct to source, have you guys seen Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory?
Oh yeah.
The new one?
No.
Oh no, not the new one.
Shit. You guys have to watch it.
Okay.
Because here's why. We'll find out. Fast forward to it. But there's Johnny Depp tells the story of how he got the Oompa Loompas and how he goes to what appears to be like a pygmy village, and they're doing the whole thing, and he sits around, in this grass hut, and the head of the tribe is there. And so picture that. So we, part of this, the initiation was the etika, where it seals in the medicine. And so we go into like this grass hut area, and everybody, all the elders are literally, and it's all you can see is the flame, and they're all sitting around us. And they have this, like a platter of sorts that has, it probably rooster's blood and Iboga with like some type of cornmeal. Anyway, they scoop it, scoop this huge spoon, and Sonia goes first. So they put it in Sonia's mouth, and she's chewing it and she's swallowing it. And then he's like holding it because, don't spit it out, and she's swallowing it. And I see these tears coming down her face. And I'm like, oh gosh, okay, my turn. So they put it in my mouth, and I just swallow it. I'm not chewing that, and swallow it, and it's fine. Just we're sealing in the medicine. This is good. And come to find out, for Sonia, the reason why she had tears is because it had released her throat chakra, and had broken it open. And so it was like a powerful experience for her in that regard, which was pretty amazing. But if you are able to see the Willy Wonka, the new one, then you'll have a really good visual of what that experience was like. Because he had to eat this thing in order to be able to take the Oompa Loompas and be initiated. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, we'll check it out.
Yeah.
That's great.
So as we know, Colorado decriminalized 4 substances last year. As they implemented that through this legislative season, there were a surprising number of changes around Ibogaine. One was that you are not allowed to actually share that medicine. There are no synthetics of that medicine allowed. But what was the most telling was that the governor's advisory board can now approve those healing centers starting at the end of 2024, which leads me to believe that we are heading towards these healing centers very quickly. We've also seen the Attorney General of Kentucky come out and say that he is going to take all his opioid settlement money and apply that in research and setting up a program for the state that is usually in the top 5 or 6 as far as opioid deaths. He's also a Republican running for governor, and so it's going to be interesting to see how a more conservative state reacts to a very aggressive legalization of a very heavy psychedelic. Now, we know this is a very powerful medicine, and you had mentioned a church, but I guess the question is, can and should Ibogaine be included under the community healing model that we created here in Colorado, or is this so powerful of a medicine that we are going to need some type of government oversight?
I don't know if it's government and oversight, but I definitely think there's a pathway to that, but I definitely think an elder's oversight or... it's not like taking mushrooms.
No, it is not like taking mushrooms.
No, and it's a very long, that knowledge of, even having a medical staff on board and knowledge of the process that the body goes through, it's to be taken seriously. It's not to be taken lightly.
I did reach out to a few people to see if they had questions, and one of the questions that I did receive was, since this medicine is really aimed at helping this country and obviously others that are experiencing a very heavy opioid fentanyl addiction crisis, are you concerned at all that it may become so available, but people do not, one, do the proper preparation, and two, it's my understanding that essentially resets the opioid receptors, and that people who return to use after the treatment are very vulnerable to overdoses?
Yes, that is concern. Of course, yeah. Of course, I don't have all the answers. These are all amazing questions that I think a community of people should definitely get together and think very seriously about. But I wholeheartedly believe in this medicine. wholeheartedly, 100%. And not everybody's going to be called to it. But Howard Lotzeff, the work that he was doing, I think something in that realm to carry on his work is important. And he changed many, many, many lives. And I'm sure there's a process and a procedure, and you don't just say. But I don't know. His experience, he got Ibogaine from his dealer, and he had an experience, and he stopped heroin. He was straight. That was his quote in 1994. I was straight. So, very good question.
And I don't think there are a lot of answers to these questions yet.
No, we're still figuring them out. And so moving forward, if you could talk to the governor's advisory board, what advice would you recommend that they take moving forward with this medicine?
Well, I like what's happening in Kentucky. I mean, he's putting some real money, and he's taking the money that should be used towards this and taking some real money into R&D behind it, and really getting some teeth in the knowledge that really proves the power of this medicine. I think that is important work. Yeah. I think that's a good first step. I think there's a lot of underground work going on. And what I mean by underground are people that are facilitating the medicine, and it's slowly gaining a global interest. And so, but I like that. I love what he's doing in Kentucky. Yeah. I think everybody's afraid of is the medicine becoming, pharmaceutical, patented, and it, then becoming white lab coats. And so taking away the sacredness of it is never going to go away. Yeah. If the lab coats are what are needed to get it to the people that really need it and are called to it, great. Like, who cares? Like, let it happen. Because the sacred side will maintain its integrity and onwards and upwards, right? Isn't there space for lab coats and there's space for not lab coats?
I agree. It sounds very much like we should have options. Depending on if you want the lab coat experience or you want the community healing experience.
Exactly. And I think all should be welcome. What do you think?
One of the things I saw at Psychedelic Science was that both here in Oregon, they are certainly going to be moving more towards the Medicare, Medicaid model in order to address their issues. I know Oregon hasn't stated anything such yet, but the mushrooms are not going to be financially viable. And so it is just my personal guess that once we get past the election next year, with a lot of the problems they've been having, specifically in Portland, that Oregon will be announcing that they will be moving forward with the Ibogaine type treatment system. There is something very beautiful about the sacredness of using any type of ethogen, any type of psychedelic that I really require for myself.
Me too.
Since this is moving more into a government model, and the requirement is the separation of the church and state, there is certainly a lot of money at play that I worry about maintaining the sacredness, but I also worry about, a very serious addiction problem throughout this country. And I'm very much, going to fight for the continued communal use of a lot of these medicines, even though, unfortunately, it seems that there are some powers that be are really aiming to take that away to make it financially viable and profitable for people who have invested money on the back end of a lot of this stuff.
Of money.
And so, it's going to be important to watch what our politicians do and not what they say, which is a rule around everything. I'm looking forward to hearing more about the church as that goes forward, and because I think it's the community. I don't think that any of these medicines are as effective when done one-on-one with a therapist that has a script given to them. It's really the most important thing with a lot of this healing is finding our way back into community.
I'll add this, but the integration process, right? Like we go and do these big psychedelics, and then, we keep doing them. But the integration process, to me, has been really key. I just worked with my friend, Jess Press, today, that's really mastered an integration process. That's really beautiful. And I'm sure there are many, many different avenues for that. But I would recommend anybody who's doing any kind of power psychedelic, especially Iboga, that there's an integration, a long integration, well thought out, well planned. Sure, like I'm in the honeymoon phase right now of like still in the, the glow of everything the medicine is still very powerfully in me. But when you start to release patterns and you start to notice the patterns real time and what can happen to the psyche and noticing in that, and do I want to let that go, and how do I let that go, and rewiring of your brain, and there's just so much to put into practice and action, and right, of the things that we learn in these processes. And I think it's so important, the integration process.
Oh yeah, and the community healing,
yes,
and integration process, it sounds like are the soul avenues for the Bwiti Tribe, as well as other tribes that practice with Ibogaine.
Something magical happens when you find your home, right? You're initiated into your home. You find your home, and then watching how the tribe operates collectively. Very powerful to see that, because we all are attempting tribe. We all at this table, and then probably many of your listeners are attempting tribe. And it's, we get this, I'm noticing that there's like a lot of start, stop, leave, come back, And so there's something about this, the initiation into the Bwiti way that starts from infancy that really is a glue, that there's a commonality that, it's a core, right? So I don't know whether it's but I definitely would love to carry that through in some way.
Yeah, it sounds like how you would replicate that here is what you're doing with the church, building that community and that tradition.
Yeah, we're just starting.
So beautiful.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much, Blair.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that we haven't covered or that you want to share with us?
I just want to say thank you to all of the people that I went to Africa with. You're in that process with, there's a total of 8 of us, so 7 others. You're in life together, right? For life, in life. Thank you to the 2 of you and what you're up to in the world. And I so appreciate that we have this connection. And I know we're just getting started, but I mentioned my friend Matt Ski that has the Ibogaine Center in Costa Rica, and then also Iboga Wellness Center. Really good places to start if people are curious and want to get going on something. Both of those places, either active addiction or not, good place to start. And I can get you contact if people reach out to you for those. But I'm excited. Doors are opening, and yeah.
I remember the first time we sat down and really spoke about this. And do you remember what you told me when I asked you, what should people who are considering this do?
Run to it. Run. Run. If Iboga touches any of your hearts out there, run. Run to it. If you're called to it, run to it. And yeah, there's terror. There's terror in that, but you'll still run. You'll know, for sure.
Intuition.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. We hope you've learned something and enjoyed our conversation. Today we have spoken with the full spectrum alchemist and goddess, Blair Bliss. This has been the Mocktails and Mushrooms Podcast.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Blair. We're so excited to talk about Ibogaine and your experiences. If you want to learn more about our podcast, you can visit our website, mocktailsandmushrooms.com, where you can find more information, resources, and episodes of Mocktails and Mushrooms. You can also subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform and leave us a review. We appreciate your support and feedback.
I'm Jimmy Smers.
And I'm Ashley Ryan.
And one more big thank you for our very special guest, Blair Bliss.
Thank you.
This is
Where did you find these?
So actually, those were given to my parents on their wedding day. And many years before my father passed away, he's like, well, what do you want out of the house? And this was, this is going back 15 years. And I'm like, the only thing I want out of the house is those mushroom glasses. And so those are old. Those are a year older than I am.
Those are amazing. Well, good job. You got the one thing you wanted.
I got the one. I got two things that I wanted. Oh.
Oh.